Hey guys, this is OddOneGaming. This is going to be another Dragonheir SilentGods video. In today's video, I want to try and help you out when it comes to building your heroes. You know, there's different types of heroes in this game. There's like supports, defense. Like, I think the easiest way to show you is to just go over here. Like, you have defense, support, rally, dauntless, summon, frost, wild, poison, you know. There's quite a few of them. And it might be a little bit complicated or, you know, not as easy to understand how to actually build your people in the right way. And I guess what I want to start with today is talking about how you should build your DPS champions. You know, if you're gonna build them in the right way, you might double or even triple the damage that they were going to dish out as long as you do it in the right way. Okay, so as an example, let's start maybe with somebody like a rally. Okay, let's go into rally and I'm gonna have a look at my Filto. Or I could even, you know, same thing I'm going to say for Filto might apply for Arlo as well, because they have similar kits. So maybe I'm going to talk about Arlo actually instead, because he's an, you know, he's a rare and might be easier to understand. But if you look at his ultimate, first of all, launches a leap attack dealing 670% attack radiant damage to enemies within range. If he has rally, it consumes, ignores 30% of the defense. So this one basically just straightforward says that you need to have damage on him, as in the basic damage, aka crit rate, crit damage. So this one just does raw damage. So as an example, you would go to him and maybe you're gonna go over here, go to the filters and try when it comes to the gloves. Try to get crit rate or crit damage, depending on how much you can reach. Obviously, you're always going to try to get as close to 100% crit rate as possible first. But if you get to somewhere like, I don't know, 70%, that should be just fine, you know. And then try to stack up the crit damage, but don't forget about the attack. Attack is also going to be a good multiplier for his damage. Then if you have a look at his battle skill, charges towards the enemy with the lowest HP, again deals radiant damage, just again straight up raw damage. So again crit rate, crit damage, and then attack. But then if you have a look at his passive, this is where things start switching up or changing a little bit, because it says let me see actually if he's different or not. So the hero's basic attack also deals splash radiant damage to other enemies within range. Okay, so this one's not exactly like Filto, but again, this one's same principle. You book it, it does more damage. This one does damage to adjacent units. So again, it seems like I thought I misunderstood Arlo's kit, it seems, but this one's just plain raw damage again. But if we have a look again, like I said, at somebody like a Filto, that has something similar but not quite. His ultimate is the same, does damage. Okay, if he consumes rally, he does more damage, straight up raw damage. Battle skill, same thing, he does damage, you know, to an area, again just raw damage. So completely straightforward, crit rate, crit damage, attack percent. But then if we're going to go and have a look at his passive, basic attacks will cause an arcane explosion upon hitting an enemy, dealing 50% attack derivative radiant damage to enemies within range. The hero will not gain any attack speed bonus. Instead, each 1% extra attack speed gained will be converted to 10 attack. So what this one means is you might want to, you know, you have two options depending on how you're going to use him. You might just stack crit rate, crit damage on him and just don't care too much about this one, or you might try and care about this one a little bit because it can do some more you know, AoE damage to targets in that area. But keep this in mind: derivative radiant damage. Derivative damage additionally grants additional damage generated by a specific skill, gains an enlightenment bonus, but cannot trigger crit. So for him, he's a little bit trickier. If you really care about his passive a lot, you might want to start stacking some enlightenment as well. But honestly, because of his ultimate skill and his battle skill being straight up raw damage, you don't have any derivative damage in here, I guess you would just ignore the enlightenment part of it. That's, or at least that's what I'm doing. You know, if I have a look at my Filito, let me see. I always call him Filito. So I do have a little bit of enlightenment, but I think it's one of the sub stats. Yeah, so I did get a little bit. Let me see, where is the enlightenment bonus that I got? Okay, so I do have a little bit of enlightenment on this piece of gear, and then a little bit on this one. So, you know, I try to give him a little bit of enlightenment as well, but I am not prioritizing that. That's not as important as his actual raw damage. So that's one example. Now, if we move over to somebody like a Dauntless here, okay, let's have a look at Ivelios, or I guess, again, Shalter maybe is a good example because he's an epic. Shelter has a little bit of a different kit. So as an example, if you look at his ultimate, enhances all allies with lightning force, granting them blessings of thunder when launching basic attacks. All allies with that buff have a chance of summoning a lightning strike on the enemy, dealing 95% attack derivative lightning damage. Keep that word again in mind, derivative damage, okay? And again, it says that derivative damage cannot trigger critical hits. On his battle skill, again, puts a shield on somebody that deals, again, derivative lightning damage. And then from his passive, he has a chance to proc kind of like a chain lightning that does, again, derivative lightning damage. So everything, you know, the keyword in here is derivative damage. So if you have a hero like Shelter, or, you know, this principle applies to maybe some poison heroes as well. But if it says derivative damage, just ignore crit rate and crit damage. That's not going to help you at all, because well, it just states over here, it cannot trigger, so gains an enlightenment bonus, but cannot trigger crit, okay? So because it cannot trigger critical hits, you just, you know, you're not going to build critical hit because it's not going to be important. So if I have a look at an example, like how I have mine built, pardon me, we're going to see that we have attack percent chest on him, okay, with some enlightenment, so that's good. Then again, I have attack percent gloves, again, with some enlightenment. Over here, obviously, I don't have, I would have preferred to have as much attack percent, enlightenment, stuff like that. I just have some attack percent, and then I have, again, enlightenment on him. So, basically, when it comes to heroes that do derivative damage, the most important stat first is actually enlightenment. Even though it doesn't, you know, it's not as easy or as self-explanatory, you know, it does says if you click over here, affects the value of derivative damage, you know, becomes a coefficient, but it does say here, increases the hero's derivative damage by a certain percentage depending on how much enlightenment you have. So the number one priority for people that do derivative damage will be enlightenment because of that. If I had a good enlightenment chest that I was not using on anybody who had some good stats, that's what I would go first, okay? So the math is always going to come out, you know, it's not as easy to calculate. I don't have the biggest brain to calculate stuff like this, but from my testing and from what I've seen other people test, stacking as much enlightenment is going to help your derivative damage more than stacking attacks. So for example, you see I have over here on Ivelios, which has similar kit as Shelter. I have enlightenment. I do have some crit rate, crit damage because, well, Ivelios does not have only, you know, derivative damage everywhere. As an example, if we look at him, he has like this. The passive, this is the one that deals derivative damage, but this one is just raw damage, and then this one is raw damage as well. So if you can do a little bit of a combination, he's a good example where you're going to try and stack a lot of enlightenment, but keep in mind, when you have Dauntless heroes, you want to have at least one more Dauntless hero alongside him, if not two. This principle will apply for most of the other heroes when you're talking about content where you can actually afford to have 2 or 3 of the same type, such as like, I don't know, the Temporal Vortex, okay? Because there, if you have 2 supports that bring you healing and increase attack, you should be fine to bring 3 other DPS. So, for example, like I said, I have him with, look at this, a lot of enlightenment, good attack, and do also have some crit rate. He's, you know, it's a little bit more complicated and a little bit harder to build people like that, but it can work. So if we're talking about stats, that's how you're supposed to focus. I cannot think of anybody that's different because, you know, poison people, like I said, it does not say anywhere that their poison, that the poison damage is inflicted by, affected by enlightenment, but it actually is. I don't know why it doesn't say anywhere in the game, but poison damage is affected by enlightenment, and the poisons will do more damage if you have more enlightenment, so keep that in mind. Now if we have a look at artifacts, for example, let's go and talk about Shelter. So for example, when it comes to artifacts, there's plenty of options. You know, there's stuff that give you attack percent, they give you crit rate, like this one, they give you, I don't know, attack and defense. So what would you use? Well, when it comes to people, for example, like Shelter, that has derivative damage everywhere, and that's his main, you know, the main part of his kit, you would use something like the Vile Ankh, okay? Gives you attack, gives you attack percent, but also says this: the wearer's attack cannot trigger critical hits, which we already know because all his kit is derivative damage, and but it deals more derivative damage. So because of that, this is what you would use on somebody that has strictly, or like, you know, most of his kit is about derivative damage, maybe, like I said, dauntless people with lightning, maybe poisons or anything else that has that. So this is something that you want to keep in mind. This is one of the few ones that you want to use. Or if you do not have that, you just go and look at the base stats and see like, okay, what gives me the most enlightenment or attack percent? So for example, the Manticore statue is gonna help, but on somebody like a Shelter, the effect of the artifact is not gonna help because the battle skill gains more damage bonus. Well, Shelter, on his battle skill, he does not hit, he does not do damage, so this one's not gonna count. Keep that in mind, because, you know, it's really important if you're gonna try to maximize the damage that you do to use the right artifacts. Now when it comes to gear sets, well, the best ones are going to be for people like Shelter, which are like, you know, dauntless heroes that the more basic attacks, the faster attack, the more damage you do. The best sets would be stuff that give you attack percent, enlightenment, attack speed. Okay, so you can either go, for example, like I have here, I have the Heart of the Gambler, and I completed this 3-piece set because he's gonna be doing a ton of damage and he has a chance to proc lots of, you know, true damage. Yes, so this one has 30% chance to deal 5% of the target's current HP up to 200% of their attack. So something like a Gambler set is good for people that do derivative damage. Then there's also the option of going with this one over here, but again, keep in mind what a 3-piece set is. So the Platinum Knight quality gives you attack percent, gives you enlightenment. Also, when the wearer's ultimate is fully recharged, he gains 30% more damage. So on somebody like Ivelios, this might be good. Always keep in mind, you know, it's a bit tricky, but if you use the right stuff, it's going to be good. Now we have the other two ones from the attack ones, which are like Wrath of the Trolls, that gives you attack percent and skill haste. This is not as good maybe because, well, if you do want to come back to that person's skills, then yeah, you're gonna go with this one. So for example, I'm using Mayola, which is not an actual DPS per se, but she's more of a supportive DPS. You know, she does some AoE damage, she brings some decreased attack. Then yeah, I could go and do the troll, the Wrath of the Trolls. I can combine a set like this, but I'm not doing a 3-piece set. Okay, so if I go on Mayola, I should have, I mean, I kind of swapped my gear around, but I would go with 2 pieces of the Wrath of the Trolls to get attack percent and skill haste, and then the other 2 I would go with something like the Brotherhood Spirit. Again, gives me some accuracy because she has debuffs, and then more skill haste. Okay, so always try to combine the stats that help your hero the most. Now if you move over back to somebody like a Filto that just has raw damage, obviously the best set for actual raw damage is going to be the Executioner, the Imperial Executioner. Okay, this one gives you attack percent and more crit rate. But if you combine the 3-piece set, damage dealt by wearer ignores 18% of the enemy's defense. This is really strong when you're talking about most areas of the game because, well, enemies are going to have pretty high defense, and if you bring this one, you're obviously going to do a ton more damage. So this is priority number 1. Then you can also consider, for example, again, the Platinum Knight quality, because if they have a strong ultimate, like Filto has, having the 30% damage bonus, this might be even better for Filto than the other one that ignores defense, because, like I said, his ultimate's pretty strong. This can be really good also on people that come back to their ultimate skills pretty fast, such as a Hedgehog. Okay, Hedgehog has a battle skill that gives him a 75% chance to give himself rally, but also recharge ultimate energy. Okay, so by doing that, that means he's gonna come back to this one pretty often. There's also a Frost one that I can think at the top of my head. Dorkuraz, let me see where he is. Do I even have? Right, I don't even have him. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if you go into the gallery, if you go over to Frost, there's this one over here. So Dorkuraz has the same thing on his battle skill. He recharges his ultimate energy by 25%, and it's on a battle skill. So he's gonna rotate this so much that he's gonna do a lot of his ultimates, which means that having the Platinum quality, Platinum Knight quality, it's a weird name. it doesn't make sense, but yeah, the Platinum Knight quality. So this one means that he's gonna come back to his ultimate a lot. So he's gonna have that damage bonus increase most of the time. So keep that in mind. So priorities for DPS are going to be the raw damage is going to be the executioner one, the Imperial Executioner. Then we're talking about people that come back to their ultimates fast or need some enlightenment for derivative damage, is going to be the platinum like quality. Then when we're talking about people that get bonus from doing lots of attack speed, such as dauntless people or even people like Usha, that, you know, her passive does some crazy stuff, like basically every second attack she deals double damage if they have frost on them, so attack speed can be helpful on that. And then obviously the last one, which is going to be least important, is going to be the Wrath of the Trolls, because, well, skill haste does not benefit your damage dealers as much as some other bonuses, like even a 3-piece set. The wearer gains healing by a certain percentage of their attack. Well, you don't really need them to heal themselves that much in most content. You're gonna have some supports that come along and help them with that. But yeah, I think I covered most of this pretty well, because, you know, there's people like wild people that kind of have the same thing. They have raw damage, then frost people, again, mostly raw damage, but some frost give them some benefit, so you might want some accuracy for people like that. For summons, they're a bit tricky, because for summons you have to have a look at what they gain stats from. If they gain stats from attack, then, well, you're gonna try and give them attack, but at the same time keep them alive, because summoners are really, you know, they're gonna be really bad if they die, because as soon as they do their summons, if they get killed and they cannot continue doing those summons, they're not going to be as useful. I have not tested much with them, but that's a basic principle that I know about them. So yeah, I guess this is gonna be it for the video today, guys. I hope it gives you an idea of how you should build your damage heroes to try to get their maximum potential out of them, because, you know, otherwise you're gonna be losing a ton of damage. You know, that's why I'm saying on the thumbnail, you know, double, triple your damage by building them in the right way. So yeah. Anyway, this is gonna be it for the video today, guys. As always, if you do enjoy my content, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel to see when I upload next, and I'm gonna see you on the next one. Peace, love, take care, everyone. Bye, guys.